Welcome back to Movies TV Mad, and you can follow me on Twitter, of course, at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Wednesday's edition of the DCEU Daily. And please stay to the end of the video for all your DCEU updates. Of course, there's not much news right now, but actually, there is actually something very interesting from legendary, iconic director Barry Sonnenfeld. And I'm actually very excited about this project because I didn't even know this was a thing in the DC live action universe. So we'll talk about that at the end of the video. 3 days to DC fandom. Last year's DCEU fandom, or should I say DC fandom, apologies, was a very rushed event. They had to rush the planning. The only reason it happened last year at first was because of COVID-19, so they had to put it together in a rush. This year, they've planned it. They've been planning this for 12 months. They know what they're going to talk about. They know the surprises and shock announcements they're going to do. They now have a slate, a secret slate, that they should be telling you at this event. Last year, we had the Snyder Cut, we had Wonder Woman 84, we had James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, and we had a trailer for the Batman. But let's not forget the trailer for the Batman was part of a movie that had been shooting for, what, a couple of months, 3 months? I mean, I still don't know how the fantabulous Matt Reeves put that together. So what I'm saying to you, this year, it's a lot more planned. And as I say, there's going to be a slate. And so we have 5 movies to see sneak peeks of, to go behind the scenes of, to see the actors, the directors, the writers of these movies really give us more details, more meat on the bones of these movies. And in terms of a slate, that's exciting because we can see it all. We can see it planned out in a map. We can map out where the DC live action universe is headed. Of course, we won't have a totally realistic idea of the future of the DC live action universe until we see these 5 movies. Very exciting. From March next year, when the Batman launches, we will have more of an idea of Walter Hamada's vision. We can only imagine and get hyped and get excited because that's what I'm doing right now. So this is a huger event. This is 100 billion% a huger event than what we had last year. But also, it's interesting, ironically, we had Patty last year promoting Wonder Woman 84. This year, she will be giving us some information, hopefully, on Wonder Woman 3. And maybe she will confirm that Nubia will be in the movie, which is very exciting as well. So we'll have, hopefully, a Wonder Woman 3 announcement. Of course, we'll be having sneak peeks or going behind the scenes, depending how far in development and production these 5 movies are. So Batman trailer, you know, we'll definitely see a sneak peek of Black Adam. The Rock will be there and other cast members as well, and the director, I think. And then we've got the Flash movie, and we've got Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and of course in 2023 we've got Shazam and Shazam Fury of the Gods. And so there's a lot to get through in terms of the films. But then we've got Green Lantern Corps, the HBO Max series, Peacemaker, and Gotham PD. I'm sure they'll want to talk about Gotham PD as well. So I think the Matt Reeves segment of the panel will be very long because he'll probably add Gotham PD onto the Batman. Now, I don't know if they started shooting Gotham PD yet or not. And that's interesting. I don't think there'll be any trailers or anything, but they maybe will be talking to the showrunner with Matt Reeves. So Matt Reeves is probably going to have the longest panel at DC Fandom. So that's very exciting because judging from what he did for us last year, Matt Reeves is a very, very interesting person listening to, because he was fascinating in his DC Fandom panel last year. I found him totally captivating. I thought he was the best part of last year's DC Fandom. So he's back, Patty Jenkins back, we've got J.J. Abrams, we've got a lot of things. And then we've got these surprises. Could it be possible that Steven Spielberg's DC project will finally be announced? I think so. It could be his project, and it could be a Green Lantern Corps movie as well, which I believe will kind of spin off from the HBO Max series. Yes, I think it's part of one universe, and I'll tell you why. And because Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart are not part of the series. Now, normally you'd say, well, this is a multiverse. Yes, I know. But what they're doing is, obviously, you know, they're creating a Green Lantern cinematic universe, or a universe, because one's going to be on streaming and one's going to be through the theatrical system. So that's the reason Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan were never there. That's why Warner Brothers were angry with Zack Snyder putting a Jon Stewart in his Justice League movie in the Snyder Cut, because they have their own vision for that. And they have their own vision for someone they want to cast. I'm hearing Jamie Foxx. That will be interesting, but I don't know if that's true or not, because I heard that we were going for a younger Jon Stewart who's going to be trained by an older Hal Jordan, but I could be wrong. That would make more sense, but I don't know. Now, who could play Hal Jordan? They could bring Ryan Reynolds back to reprise his role. I think this would still excite people. Even though that movie is reviled by some people, I still think it's got great elements, and Ryan Reynolds did his best, didn't he? And I think himself, he was a great Hal Jordan. He wasn't a greatly written Hal Jordan, but I still think he did a good job. And I think if they want to go that way, have a younger Jon Stewart, which means it wouldn't be Jamie Foxx, it'll be somebody else. And, you know, that's up to them who they cast, and then we'll have to react to it. The thing is with casting, I always say this, don't judge it until you see it. And if you don't like it, once you've seen it, that's fine. Then you have every right as a consumer to be constructive about your criticism, as long as you're not toxic. But yeah, you've got to see it before you can judge it. That's why I took a step back with the announcements of Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor and Ben Affleck as Batman Bruce Wayne. I didn't really like those castings when I first heard about them, and I was about to go full throttle. And I said, Mick, wait a minute. Ben Affleck is an Oscar-winning director. He's directed and acted in his own movie, which won multiple Oscars. The chances are they want him to be Batman and they want him to make Batman. And I thought to myself, that's awesome. So wait till you see him. Then I fell in love with his Batman in BVS. And Jesse Eisenberg isn't the guy I would have cast or wanted to be cast as Lex Luthor, because I've always been totally in love with Michael Rosenbaum. I think he's sensational. But I think as this kind of weirdly different Lex Luthor in the Snyderverse, I like him. And I like the way he plays it. Sometimes he may take it a bit too far, but I actually like it. I ain't got a problem with Lex Luthor, and I like the way the character is in that film. So, as I say, that's proof there that you should judge it when you see it. So yeah, I do expect a Green Lantern Corps movie to be announced, and I do expect the Steven Spielberg movie to be announced as well, but I could be wrong. Now, this is what Variety and Hollywood Reporter said a few months ago, that the Steven Spielberg project, which we thought wasn't happening anymore, is still happening. Now, the Steven Spielberg property from DC that he's doing, and I forgot the title to it now, but basically it's set in World War II. It's about a pilot. I don't know if that pilot happens to have powers or not. I don't think that he does. But I think there are kind of potentials there of bringing in people like Wonder Woman and Superman from that era, and maybe set somewhere else in the multiverse and not in the central universe, and maybe Steven would like that. I'm sure Steven has always wanted to do these characters. He's a bit of a superhero fan, and we know Spielberg does great fantasy. Of course, Schindler's List was a very important movie, but it's a movie I personally as a young man couldn't get into, but I respect what he was trying to do with that movie. But for me, it's about E.T. and Close Encounters. I wasn't so much into Jaws, but Jaws is a genius movie. There's no question about it. So I think those would be the two announcements. I think some people will find that somewhat disappointing. I mean, how can you find a Green Lantern movie disappointing? But maybe the Steven Spielberg one won't excite people. Now, because the Steven Spielberg film was announced quite a while back, maybe Jim Lee didn't mean this is part of the two brand new announcements. So it could be Green Lantern Corps and another project. So there's two brand new projects being announced, and I would assume that's your 2024 slate or even your 2023 slate. I'm not sure. We're going to have to wait and see, but we will get a slate. Listen, there's no question about that. And so look, this is a huge event for us, all of us, YouTubers who, deal with DC and entertainment, but most importantly, the fans. Now, I'm a YouTuber, but first and foremost, I'm a DC fan and a DCEU fan as well. So this is huge, and this is a huge event. And as I said on the top of the show, this is going to be so much bigger than last year because they've had time to plan it, and because of COVID, because the entertainment industry can now live with COVID. This time last year, it was a nightmare. We didn't know if things were going to get released, when they were going to be released. The Batman had multiple interruptions because of COVID-19. The Flash, I think, has never had any problems. I don't know. I can't remember any breaks. And I think at this moment in time, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is doing okay. And I don't think Shazam! Fury of the Gods had any problems either. So they know how to cope with the pandemic now. And it's not so much a pandemic. The entertainment industry has come to terms with it, which is very exciting. So we're going to have some huge announcements. Some we already know about, these 5 movies coming up, but we're also going to get some big surprises as well. So Jim Lee has said this thing about 2 brand new announcements. Did he say two brand new announcements at least, or 2 brand new announcements full stop? It's interesting what we're going to get. I think there are some big surprises which Jim isn't going to tell us all about in his Twitch anyway. So I would think it's at least 2 movie announcements, but I think there could be, and there probably will be and should be, more announcements. So you need to be a fandome from the very beginning. And I know it's a bit of a challenge for us in Europe, because I think, what time does it start in Europe? I think it starts in the morning in America, but here in Cyprus, for example, we're 2 hours ahead of you in the UK. I think we're going to start about 6 p.m. I think it's going to be a late one. Last year was a late one, and I fell asleep before the Batman panel, and I was so pissed off. This year, I have to cover it all. And I think what we'll do is, with DC Fandome, as long as there's light, I will do the videos as much as I can. And even when it gets dark, I will still do videos until it gets ridiculous. And then I won't be able to do it, and then I'll kind of continue the coverage on Monday's DCEU Daily, and I hope that's all right with everyone. If it's not, I will stay up for as long as possible, for as long as I have to cover DC Fandome. I want to cover it in its entirety. I'm just pre-warning you that if we get to midnight and 2 in the morning and some things haven't come out yet and all the panels haven't come in, it might not be possible for me to do it, but I'm hugely excited, and I will be covering most of it. I hope I cover all of it. Let's see how the day progresses. As long as you're fine with bad lighting, I will do the videos, and then we'll cover it all on Monday's DCEU Daily. But yes, a very exciting event, because DC live action is changing course. Since Snyder left, it hasn't really had a course. So this is why I'm even more excited about this event. I think this is the focus for me with this event, that we will hear some things, and Walter Hamada and Greg Berlanti will be there again. It's no surprise that Walter and Greg were in that panel together, in that Zoom together last year. They are now working together because Walter Hamada plans on unifying every piece of the DC live action universe, and segments of the multiverse we haven't even been introduced to yet. That's very exciting. That means you can have crossovers with Legends of Tomorrow and Harley Quinn and silly things like that, but it's all fun. It's all fun, right? And then there'll be these standalone movies as well, which will be in other parts of the multiverse. Again, that's cool. It will have something for everyone. But we are looking at a unification through this multiverse strategy of everything. It means anyone can cross over with everybody else, and there's so many things and so many potential. What would be the biggest announcement for me? Well, of course, the dream is Henry Cavill returning in his own movie, which I don't see happening, but we can always hope. But if Brandon Routh was announced, maybe for the Flash movie or maybe for his own movie, because he is Christopher Reeve's Superman, and it's cool to keep Chris's Superman alive. And Brandon Routh's a great Superman, and he deserves this because he never got his sequel. I wrote about 20 episodes of a Superman Returns spin-off series, And I was very excited by it. Now we could never do that now because obviously in Crisis they killed off Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen and Perry White. But, you know, there's still some exciting things they can do. Now, he's basically on his Christopher Reeve Earth, but you know, all those characters are not there anymore. So there could be an opportunity for maybe Brandon Routh to become the Central Universe Superman if Henry Cavill isn't going to be Superman anymore. I don't know, but you could have potentially on kind of the Earth 1 a couple of versions of Superman as well. Well, we know we're getting Ta-Nehisi Coates' Superman and J.J. Abrams' Superman, and we're getting Val Zod's Superman via Michael B. Jordan. I think writing it or producing it or whatever he's doing. Maybe he'll play the character as well. He's always wanted to play Superman. He's always been rumoured to play Superman, but I think they will be part. I mean, because these are different versions of Superman, and, you know, potentially they could actually be part of Earth 1. I don't think that they will be, and I think that Ta-Nehisi Coates and J.J. Abrams' Superman, I think, is set in the 90s. But then you could basically go back in time with DCEU Earth 1, couldn't you? But the problem is there's been nothing, we've never been told that there were other versions of Superman on Earth 1. Superman, you know, Henry Cavill's Superman was a surprise to everyone in that world and that universe. So it's unlikely that there have been other versions of Superman before unless the information was buried. That's a good way of doing it, but there'd be stock footage surely. So probably these two versions of Superman will be set on other parts of the multiverse. So that's very exciting. So one of the big announcements I would love is definitely Brandon Routh returning as Superman in this brand new unified DC live action universe, and I think maybe that's why they went with his Superman in Crisis as well. I mean, they had the actor there anyway because he was in Legends of Tomorrow. I think he's left now. And I was very suspicious why he left Legends of Tomorrow, so I definitely think they are going to give Brandon Routh's Superman something, and I kind of hope and kind of expect, but more hope than expect, a Brandon Routh Superman announcement, which would be freaking great. So I really do hope that happens for all of us. But if it doesn't, it could come down the pipeline. So as I say, with DC Fandome, a more planned out, more time to get all their announcements and projects ready. Expect a more organised Fandome, a more exciting Fandome. And I don't knock the first Fandome because what they achieved last year was amazing with very little time to plan it. But this is huger. This is huger. There's more projects. Hamada has his plan all mapped out now, and hopefully he can explain that plan to us at DC Fandome. So really excited about this event, and I'll be tuning in and I'll have it on all throughout the day, and when a big announcement comes in, I will do a bite-sized video. Leave it. I don't want to leave any of Fandome, but at the end of the day, they take a break in between each major panel with like silly little things that they're talking about that we don't need to know about. You know what I mean? So that's cool. So I can react on this channel to every piece of news. So please, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed and you like what you see, why wouldn't you? Look at me, right? Although, don't let your girlfriends and wives watch this video. They may get a bit too excited. It's not my fault. You know, I'm perfect, right? Anyway, so basically, don't forget to subscribe. And please, please, please stay tuned because I will cover the entirety of DC Fandome, and anything I miss on the day, as I've already said, will be covered in my daily shows, the DCEU Daily, which you are watching now. So try and watch most of it on the day. Please come in for my bite-sized videos in between, but basically be ready for anything. This is huge. The DCEU now has leadership. It has a group of people. It has groupthink now. It doesn't have individual think. It has groupthink. Everyone sits round the same table, as Ann Sarnoff already said in that Variety interview. So they have got leadership now. They have plans now. They have projects coming out. And we're going to find out everything. For the first time, the DCEU has proper organisation. The DC live action universe is organised. There's a plan. Now, Zack had a plan, but this is a studio that knows they want to make every piece of buck out of this franchise, and before they weren't doing this. So as a DC fan, I'm extremely hyped. I'm really excited about this piece of news. DC's Metal Men movie is still in development, confirms director. 9 years after Barry Sonnenfeld signed on to direct the Metal Men, and he now says the movie is still in active development at Warner Brothers by Richard Dink of Screen Rant. Now, disclaimer, I've never heard of the Metal Men, but they look fucking awesome, right? So bring it on. Imagine them in live action. Now, but Barry Sonnenfeld is an iconic, legendary director. So this is really awesome. I didn't know this was going on. No, I mean, he's been, you know, he was tapped for this 9 years ago. So how long have we had the DCEU? When did it start? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, so he's basically been there pre-DCEU. So that's amazing. So I don't think a project like this, I don't know, will it be part of the central universe of DC live action, or will an auteur like Barry get to do his own thing on another part of the multiverse? We'll have to wait and see, but this is exciting. A movie based around the DC Comics characters, the Metal Men, is still in development at Warner Brothers, confirms director Barry Sonnenfeld. Introduced in Showcase 37 in 1962, the Metal Men were created by writer Robert Kaniga and artist Ross Andrew. The team involves scientist Will Magnus and his 6 robot creations representing different metal types: gold, iron, lead, mercury, tin and platinum. The team has been one of DC's more obscure titles. However, they have made appearances in various storylines, including Alex Ross' Justice League New 52 event Forever Evil and the event series Doomsday Clock in June 2012. It was announced that Men in Black and Addams Family director Barry Sonnenfeld would helm a Metal Men movie for Warner Brothers. However, in the 9 years since the film's announcement, no more news has come of it, and DC has since made films based around Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, the Suicide Squad and Shazam. Despite all this time, Barry Sonnenfeld confirms that the Metal Men is still in active development at Warner Brothers in an interview with comicbookmovie.com. He confirmed that he is working on a treatment now. He teased that the film will be less a traditional superhero story and more in the vein of his Addams Family movies from the 1990s. That's interesting. I don't know what to make of that, but hey, it's obviously going to be more family orientated. Again, I'm fine with that, because we want a bit of everything, don't we? Focusing on fleshing out the world the characters inhabit, Sonnenfeld said. You know, it's funny because I'm developing Metal Men with Warner Brothers. We're actively working on a treatment for that. For me, it's not so much a superhero thing as it is world building, which is great. If you look at the work I've done, whether it's the Addams Family, Men in Black, Pushing Daisies, wow, I love that show. Shimmy Gun, I don't know what that is, Shimmy Dune, or a series of unfortunate events, which is great as well. It's all about creating a world, an unusual, slightly off-kilter, quirky, different kind of world. That's what I love doing. It's not specifically necessarily superhero, but even in Metal Men that I'm developing, it's going to be a very specific kind of world. It's a real world because I always like things to be reality-based, but slightly with a tilt to that. It all started with the Addams Family, which is both real but slightly pushed. Yeah, Barry's work, you know, I'm sure you know Men in Black, you know, Addams Family. I mean, the man's a genius, and this is very, very exciting because I think the family can go and watch the project he's talking about. The family can go in there and really enjoy it. This guy knows how to entertain an audience. That's what I said. With this multiverse strategy, we can have everything. Dark movies, light movies, family movies, films for adults. It shouldn't just be for one demographic, and that's what I've always said. And this is why I think Walter Hamada is really smart here. But obviously he's been developing this project for a very, very long time. I think this is exactly, I think Walter Hamada went back, saw this was in cobwebs, went to Barry and said, you know what, I like this, I like the idea, I like your concept of Metal Men, let's do it. And I say, let's do it. DC and Warner Brothers have made many announcements on various characters getting movies, including a Birds of Prey spin-off for Black Canary, as Zatanna from the writer of Promising Young Women. Blue Beetle has just cast Cobra Kai star Xolo Maridueña as the lead role. Michael B. Jordan is set to produce a Static Shock film, and by the way, he's going to produce the Val Zod Superman limited series as well. Batgirl has a star and director set with a release date planned for HBO Max. The Metal Men could be an ideal fit for HBO Max, given the nature of the title and that Sonnenfeld's most recent success was directing 10 episodes of Netflix, a series of unfortunate events, which, if go and watch it, it's amazing. It really is good. And so he's done a great job there. Listen, I don't mind if it's on HBO Max. Well, I kind of mind because I don't have access to the platform, but I'm sure I'll be able to watch it somehow. I'd love to go and see this in the cinema screen, but if it's streaming, it's streaming. I don't care. It sounds great. At the time of Metal Men's initial announcement, DC Films were in a very interesting place of transition. Green Lantern had failed to launch a cinematic universe. The year prior, Christopher Nolan's take on Batman was set to end the following month with the release of The Dark Knight Rises. Man of Steel was set for release the following year, but the studio hadn't quite hatched a plan for a cinematic universe plan, so the Metal Men's announcement seemed to raise some eyebrows. Given the fluidity of DC's film slate and the overall universe, the Metal Men can be either part of the main DCEU, as I've already said, or could take place in a separate reality. Like Matt Reeves' The Batman, the Metal Men may be the new superhero team the DC Universe needs on film that breaks out with audiences. Things like this, and with Barry involved. You've got to understand who Barry is. He can make great family movies. And I know some of you go, oh, family movie, comedies, you know, I don't like that. Well, you don't have to like that. But there are other people that do. What I'm trying to say to you, DC live action, and even the animation, there should be something for everyone. Dark, light, adult, kid-friendly. That's the kind of universe I want. And that's the kind of universe I think we're going to get. Well, superfan Scott Edwards and loyal faithful subscriber who's always begging me to read out his picks, and sometimes I forget and sometimes I just don't have time on the DCEU Daily. Well, he's picked this article, and this is from the Flash story arc in the opening of Season 8, Armageddon. And as you can see, there you go. There's our villain for that story. Nice haircut. The Flash faces DC villain Despero in Arrowverse Armageddon. First look images. The Flash showrunner Eric Wallace reveals new images of the Flash facing DC villain Despero during the upcoming Arrowverse Armageddon event by Nicholas Graff of Screen Rant. The first look at the DC and Arrowverse Armageddon villain Despero has been revealed in new images from the Flash, with the Arrowverses continuing their crossover tradition this year after the COVID-19 pandemic forced them to skip events last season. Producers are excited to show audiences what they have in store this year, but whether Despero will live up to the crossover villains of the past years is the real question. Well, there's no question about the actor playing him is top notch. It's super casting, I'll say that much. The Arrowverse began its crossover tradition back in the 2014-15 season in the two-night event Flash vs. Arrow. Those were the days, right, when the Arrowverse was awesome, which spanned across the Arrow and the Flash series. In the years since, as the universe expanded, the crossovers grew to include other series including Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman and Black Lightning. The last big crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earths, which also served as the closing chapter for the Arrowverse's flagship series, Arrow, featured the most powerful villain to date, the Anti-Monitor. In addition to killing Arrow's hero Oliver Queen, Crisis reset the timeline and merged all the Arrowverse shows into one universe, Earth Prime. A new status quo, which all the shows adapted to last season. It's interesting. I think they did Earth Prime with the knowledge of what Walter Hamada and Greg Berlanti were up to. So basically, they wanted the Arrowverse shows on one Earth. So when they unite everything together, the films, the TV series, it would be more cohesive. That's what I think anyway. In a new EU interview with the Flash showrunner Eric Wallace, new images show the Flash facing DC villain Despero in a first look at the Arrowverse Armageddon event. While Despero may not look like his comic counterpart in the images, Wallace warns, be careful what you see, your eyes can sometimes deceive you, potentially hinting that the Despero seen in the images is merely a human disguise. When asked about the choice of Despero for the crossover event, Wallace went on to explain his reasoning. Check out the images and read Wallace's explanation below. I wanted to put a truly classic DC villain in this 5-part event that I knew fans would get excited about, says Wallace. Also, I can't say too much without revealing too much of the story. There's a certain element to the story itself that involves the power set of dceu, which makes him the perfect fit for the story. Yeah, this is a better look at him. As I say, this is an actor, a really good actor. He was in Doctor Who. He was in one of the greatest episodes of Doctor Who in the Matt Smith, Stephen Moffat era. But yeah, he looks great. dceu was originally created by Gardner Foxx and Mike Sabowski in 1960, a three-eyed alien who often went up against the Justice League of America. His powers included super strength and powerful psychic abilities, making him more than a match for his enemies, and also making him an ideal choice to fight multiple Arrowverse heroes. While Wallace promises that they have their own take on the character in general, the Arrowverse has always been good at adapting DC comic characters for the small screen in a way that works for the story. The return of the Arrowverse crossover this year has a large burden on it, especially now that The Flash is the flagship series of the dceu shows. After so many years building up to Crisis, and the feeling that so many stories culminating during that crossover, it will be interesting to see how the creatives are going to raise the stakes from the regular storylines now. Conversely, it will be interesting to see if they are going to start setting up new major plotline similar to Crisis. Either way, fans are sure to be excited when Armageddon premieres on November the 16th to kick off the 8th season of The Flash. That's not actually that far away. I forgot that the full season starts soon in the US, so that's awesome. Now, even though we've had an announcement of who's in this crossover, don't be surprised if we do see maybe a DCEU cameo in this crossover, and probably we either will get an announcement at Fandome, but if they want it as a surprise, they won't tell us anything. They never told us about Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller maybe could cross over again just to tease his connection with Grant's The Flash in the Flash movie. So they may give us another surprise, but this looks exciting at least. The Flash didn't go down well with fans last year, there's no question about that. Arrowverse has gained a bad reputation since its amazing first 4 years. You know, first 2 seasons of Arrow, first 2 seasons of The Flash. It went downhill quickly, but, you know, it is a cohesive shared universe, and I know a lot of people out there still love it. This is one for you gamers. I'm not really a gamer. I love Injustice 2, but normally I don't play games. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League number assumes callers are Harley Quinn. Everyone's obsessed with getting fans to phone up these numbers now. We had Doctor Who last week. We had Peacemaker giving fans a phone number to listen into a meeting of Task Force X, and now they're doing it in this game. Suicide Killed the Justice League leaks the phone number of the fictional group's director, Amanda Waller, and she doesn't like prank calls by Gade Onda of Screen Rant. The voice of DC character Amanda Waller is depicted in Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, can be heard when an official phone number is called, and she assumes the caller is game co-star Harley Quinn. Ahead of another look at the new Suicide Squad game at DC Fandome, it's official. Social media channels are drumming up public interest with new teases. Developer Rocksteady Studios has been relatively quiet about the game since revealing it last year, but it appears more substantial details are on the way as its 2022 release year approaches. New Suicide Squad footage expected at DC Fandome on October the 16th, and it will hopefully be a look at Kill the Justice League gameplay, which has yet to be shown. The only other glimpse given so far was a cinematic reveal trailer teeing up the anti-hero story, but there's been no visual evidence of how the Suicide Squad game plays. Rocksteady hasn't released a title in 6 years and has largely only ever worked on the Batman Arkham series. So curiosity about how Kill the Justice League might depart from its classic series is running high. The new game stars iconic DC villains, Harley Quinn, Deadshot, King Shark and Captain Boomerang, who have vastly different personalities and abilities when contrasted with Batman. The hype up the imminent reveal, it seems like Rocksteady and publisher WB Games have kicked off an ARG of some kind. On October the 12th, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League Twitter account wordlessly tweeted out a phone number when called, as Twitter user Caboose EK discovered, the fictional group's handler Amanda Waller will answer and assume the caller is Harley Quinn, yelling at whoever's on the other line before hanging up. By texting the number, participants are signed up for automatic updates about the game, likely keeping subscribed users in the loop on any Suicide Squad game news from DC Fandom. Whether or not this will be supported long term with any exclusive information has yet to be confirmed. So that's nuts. That really is nuts. There's presently no word on what will be seen from the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League at 2021's DC Fandom. Both the Suicide Squad game and Gotham Knights have been announced to be present during the day's events, and it's possible new gameplay trailers or concrete release dates could be revealed for either. The DC duo are slated for 2022 launches, and WB Games hasn't hinted at what points in the year they would release since the untimely delay of Gotham Knights. The ramp up in marketing leading to DC Fandom has been slow but sure, with DC sharing a growing number of teasers in recent weeks, including new character art for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The game will follow the unlikely villains turned heroes as they battle the likes of Superman, presumably other Justice League members, all of whom appear to be under the control of Brainiac. Whether this will actually result in the squad actually killing these beloved superheroes is a mystery, but it certainly makes for an interesting premise. Now, we've heard that James Gunn wanted to kind of have an evil Superman that the squad had to stop in his Suicide Squad movie, but he decided not to do that. I think if this game, the Suicide Squad, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, is successful, we may have James Gunn adapt this, and I think this would be really, really cool. Also, in terms of DC Fandom, expect more games to be announced. They're really going for games now, so expect maybe 3 or 4 or even 5 games announced, because they're really, really amping it up, because games are huge money. In fact, they make more money than the movies or Hollywood ever make, so it's big business, important business. So expect some DC character games to be announced that you don't know about. In terms of lack of marketing, when you've got an event like DC Fandom, that's your marketing, so you don't need prior marketing, in my opinion. And finally today, just after Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut was announced, or released should I say, there was a little Restore the Snyderverse event. This event garnered 1.5 million tweets or something along those lines. But just like the November event that actually got released, the Snyder Cut greenlit, do you remember it? When we were not celebrating, but it was a year or whatever it was since Justice League or something. We did the big event. Everyone was telling us this was the big event they were watching. And, later the next year, we actually got an announcement about the Snyder Cut. And I feel this 1.5 million event that nobody really talks about anymore, earlier this year, is the one that's already restored the Snyderverse. I don't think you people actually realise. I remember what Zack said. Thank you. Do you think they listen? One fan said. Zack replied, they'll have to. So that was interesting. I think that's the moment they decided to actually greenlit the Air Cut and restore the Snyderverse. Now, I don't know when we're going to hear about the Air Cut. I would assume we won't hear anything about a restoration of the Snyderverse yet, but I think that was the event that did it. We already won, we just didn't know it. Because when you trend like that, when they can see the success of the Snyder Cut on streaming on HBO Max, when they can see how many Blu-rays and 4Ks and DVDs they're selling, how many people are buying digital copies as well. The Snyderverse is an excuse, a license to print money. There's no question about that now. So my confidence level at this moment in time, and it may change in the future, is that we will restore the Snyderverse, and they've already decided to do it. In terms of the Ann Sarnoff hit piece, she actually did that piece prior to the release of the Snyder Cut. Yes, these people were hoping the Snyderverse would go away, but it hasn't. There's too much money in it, and Zack Snyder will get the opportunity to do another 2 movies and whatever else, right? Because they're going to be huge as well, and the hype's going to be huge. And, you know, why do you think they used Zack Snyder's VFX team for the Flash movie? Why are we hearing that, you know, Andy Muschietti's a big Snyder fan and he's going to use, you know, the Snyder Cut as canon? Something has changed. And something changed from the moment we did that 1.5 million trending Restore the Snyderverse event. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. I will be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily for you. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Please smash that notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again soon. And just imagine this time tomorrow, it's only 2 days till DC Fandome. See you tomorrow.